My wife handed my room away like it was a used napkin. Not the resort room, not the spare. The master suite, the one with the lakefront glass wall and the soaking tub big enough to drown in comfort. The one I paid for because she said, if we're going to start forever, it should look like forever. We'd checked in at 3:04 p.m. The bellman rolled our bags across marble that smelled like lemon polish and money. Lila wore white linen like she owned the sun. I carried the garment bag with her dress for the little pre-wedding photo shoot she'd planned, because that was what I did. I carried things, and I made sure the wheels stayed on. At 4:20, her phone chimed. She glanced down and smiled the way people smile when they're about to cause damage and want you to call it honesty. He's here, she said. I stopped with my hand on the brass handle of Suite 1208, the key card still warm from the front desk. Who's here? Lila tilted her head like I'd asked something stupid. Grant, my ex. The hallway carpet had this hush to it, thick enough to swallow footfalls. Somewhere behind us, an ice machine hummed and clicked like it was thinking. I thought this was a girl's thing, I said. My voice came out level, too level, like the sound a man makes when he's trying not to show his teeth. It is, she said. Mia and Tessa are downstairs. Grant just needed a reset, Evan. He's been going through it. And honestly, he knows the lake better than anyone. It'll be fun. The elevator doors opened. Grant stepped out like he'd been summoned by a script. Tall, clean beard, sunglasses still on indoors because he wanted the world to squint at him first. He saw me and gave a smile that didn't touch his eyes. It was the kind of smile that says, I'm already in your seat. Evan, he said, like my name tasted familiar. Grant, I said. Lila slipped her arm through his, not fully, just enough. Then she did it, like it was nothing, like she was passing him the salt. She took my key card and handed it to him. You take the master, she said, bright. It's the only one with the good light. Evan won't care. She turned to me and added, smiling like a teacher explaining math to a slow kid, it's not a big deal. For a second, my brain tried to understand the physics of it. The master suite behind my hand. The extra room assigned under the same reservation, smaller, facing the parking lot. The fact that my fiancée, my almost wife, had just decided that her ex deserved my bed more than I did. Grant's smirk widened. He didn't even say thank you. He just slid the key card between his fingers and pushed the suite door open. Inside, I could see the white duvet and the bright spill of late afternoon lake light. Grant walked in like it had always been his. Lila brushed past me. We can share the other room, she said. Or you can take it and I'll stay with the girls. Whatever. Don't be dramatic. Don't be dramatic. The words landed in my chest like a cold coin. I looked at her, really looked, at the way she wouldn't meet my eyes, at the way she was already halfway into the suite behind him, like my presence was an inconvenience she couldn't afford. I thought about the wedding planner's binder back home, the deposits, the contracts, the flights, the fact that the resort reservation wasn't on us, it was on me. It was on my company card because my LLC was, in Lila's words, a boring detail. Boring details are the only things that survive feelings. I nodded. Okay, I said. Just that. No speech, no threats, no raised voice. I stepped back from the doorway. Lila blinked, thrown off by the lack of fight. See? She said to Grant, like she was proving a point. He's fine. Grant leaned against the doorframe and lowered his sunglasses just enough to let me see his eyes. Good man, he said. I walked to the other room. It was clean, cold, and smaller than the closet of the place we were starting forever in. I set my bag down and sat on the edge of the bed like I was testing a lie for strength. My phone buzzed. Wedding group chat. Lila had posted a photo of the lake with the caption, "Last trip before I become a wife." I stared at it until my hands stopped shaking. Then I did the first thing I always do when something breaks. I made a list. 1, leave. 2. Lock what's mine. 3. Let the truth do the dirty work. At 7:13 p.m., I walked through the lobby without rushing. I nodded at the concierge, smiled at the couple taking selfies by the fireplace, and kept my face neutral like I wasn't stepping out of my own life. At 7:41, I bought a one-way ticket home. At 7:58, I called Diane Mercer, the attorney I'd met 2 months ago, just to understand the prenup paperwork Lila had waved off. Diane picked up on the second ring. "Evan? I'm coming home," I said, "and I need you to be at your office tomorrow morning." A pause, then her voice sharpened. "Did something happen?" "Something finally happened," I said. At 8:12, my phone lit up with a text from Lila, a selfie in the master suite mirror, her bare shoulder visible, Grant behind her blurred, holding a champagne flute like a trophy. Caption: "Don't sulk." I stared at the screen until it stopped feeling like my phone and started feeling like evidence. Then I put it in my pocket and walked toward the shuttle to the airport, the lake behind me darkening like it had already decided how this ends. Lila's next text came at 8:34, a single smiley face, and for the first time that night I smiled back, because I knew what she didn't. I'd already started the clock. Airports are built for people leaving. They're all glass and directions, all movement and permission. Nobody asks why you're going, only where. I took a seat near the window at gate C14 and watched jets roll like slow animals. My carry-on sat at my feet. Inside it, a charger, a toothbrush, and the sudden weight of being the only adult in my own story. At 9:26 p.m., I opened my laptop and logged into the resort booking portal. The reservation name glowed back at me like a quiet joke. Evan Hart, Master Suite. I didn't touch the keycard part. I didn't call the manager screaming. That's what Lila expected. Some dramatic outburst she could retell later like a funny thing her sensitive fiancé did. Instead, I read resort terms, occupancy, incidentals, authorized guests, cancellation windows, early checkout policies. Every line that made people yawn in a meeting was suddenly a lever. At 9:39, I called the resort from the lounge phone to keep my number off their caller ID record, not because I was hiding, but because I liked controlling what other people could quote. "Front desk," a young man said. His voice had the practiced calm of someone trained to handle the rich. "Hi," I said. "This is Evan Hart. I'm the primary on reservation 7842. I'm checking out tonight." Silence, then the click of keys. "Mr. Hart, you're scheduled through Sunday." "I won't be there," I said. "Please remove the incidentals hold from my card at midnight. Charge only what's owed through today, and list the remaining guests as responsible for anything after my checkout." A beat. "Sir, if you check out, the suite becomes available," I said. "I understand. I'm authorizing you to downgrade the remaining party to the standard room on the reservation. They can decide what to do from there." He hesitated. I could almost see him picturing the tantrum he'd have to absorb. "You're sure?" he asked. "I'm sure," I said. "Okay, I'll note it. Also," I added, "please remove Grant's access to any room keys. He is not an authorized guest. If he requests one, deny it." "Understood, sir." I hung up and felt something in my ribs loosen, like a strap had been cut. At 9:55, I opened my banking app and looked at the joint credit card Lila used for wedding errands. She was an authorized user on my account, not the other way around. She'd insisted on that because, again, paperwork was a vibe brutaler. I didn't freeze her life. I didn't try to punish her with poverty. I did something simpler and cleaner. I removed her authorization for new charges. The app asked me to confirm. I confirmed. At 10:02, I sent an email to the wedding planner. "Please pause all new vendor payments. I need to review contract terms first thing tomorrow." At 10:11, I emailed the venue manager. "Do not release any additional funds from my deposit until further notice." At 10:19, I pulled up the prenup draft Diane had sent last month. The one Lila said we could finish later. The one she'd never signed. She'd said she trusted me. Trust is what people say when they're making sure you don't look too closely. My phone buzzed. Lila. Evan, where are you? She texted. I didn't answer. A minute later. Stop being weird. Then, Grant says you're acting insecure. Then, hello? At 10:27, the call started. 1, 2, 3. I watched the screen light up and go dark again like a heartbeat. I didn't feel panic. I felt the calm of a man pulling a splinter out slow, making sure not to leave anything behind. A man in a blue suit sat across from me, reading a magazine with no pictures. He looked up, then away, like my buzzing phone was a song he didn't want stuck in his head. At 10:41, I got a text from Grant. You can't do this, man. Grow up. I stared at it and thought, he still thinks this is about feelings. At 10:49, I typed a reply. I'm not doing anything. I'm simply not paying for you anymore. I didn't send it. I left it there, unsent, like a bullet on the table. Let them imagine what's in the chamber. At 10:58, boarding began. I got up with the other travelers, parents with tired kids, businessmen with blank eyes, a woman in a hoodie crying quietly into her sleeve. Nobody looked like they were leaving the life they'd planned. I scanned my boarding pass, walked down the jet bridge, and felt the air change. Cooler, recycled, metallic. The plane door swallowed me and the world narrowed to seats and overhead bins. I sat by the window. The engine whined. The ground crew pulled the cones away. My phone buzzed again. Lila. They said my card declined at dinner. What did you do? I didn't answer. I watched the runway lights stretch ahead like a dotted line towards something inevitable. As we lifted, the city shrank to a grid of tiny yellow squares. Somewhere behind me at the resort, Lila was still in my suite, taking pictures like nothing had consequences. I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes. In the dark behind my eyelids, Diane's voice from earlier replayed like a warning I hadn't listened to at the time. You don't need drama, Evan. You need timing. My phone buzzed one more time before I turned it to airplane mode. A voicemail notification. 87 missed calls would come later. But the first one? The first one was the sound of a door locking. Home smelled like stale heat and the cinnamon candle Lila bought because a girl on social media said it made men more affectionate. It was 1:46 a.m. when I unlocked the front door. The living room was exactly how we left it. Wedding magazines fanned across the coffee table, fabric swatches, a half-assembled welcome sign leaning against the wall with our names in cursive. Evan and Lila. Forever starts here. I set my bag down and stood there a moment, listening to the silence. In the next room, the fridge hummed. In the hallway, our Christmas lights blinked on a timer, cheerful and pointless. I went straight to my office, the spare bedroom we'd pretended was going to be a nursery soon. On the shelf, a black binder waited. Not a romantic thing to keep, but I'm an operations guy. I keep binders, I keep receipts, I keep the boring parts. Inside, contracts, invoices, deposit receipts, email printouts. The venue agreement, the florist contract, the catering terms, the photographer's cancellation policy, all the places where feelings end and clauses begin. She thought vacations were gifts. They were agreements. At 2:12 a.m., my phone came off airplane mode and exploded like a firecracker in my hand. Missed calls, 87. Texts stacked like bricks. Leela. Answer me. Leela. Stop this. Leela. The resort said we had to move rooms. Leela. They said your card is off the file. What does that even mean? Leila. Grant is pissed. Leila. Evan, this is not funny. Grant. You're embarrassing her. Grant. You're going to regret this. Grant. Call me like a man. I didn't call. I opened Diane's email again. The prenup draft attached. I wasn't proud that I'd asked for it. At the time, it felt like planning for divorce before marriage, like buying a parachute before getting on a plane. Now it felt like a seatbelt. The draft wasn't even harsh. It was practical. Separate property stays separate. Business assets protected. No spousal support in case of short marriage. The kind of thing Lila called cold. She'd promised she'd sign after the trip. This trip. At 2:34, I sent Diane a text. I'm home. Need options. Call me at 7:30. At 2:35, I emailed the venue and requested written confirmation of their refund policy based on material change in circumstances. At 2:41, I pulled up my airline confirmation. It felt surreal to see "one way" in bold, like the system was naming the thing I hadn't said out loud yet. At 3:02, Lila called again. I answered this time, not because she deserved it, but because I wanted her words on record. Emails, texts, a pattern. Not for court, for reality. "Evan," she snapped. She didn't start with concern. She started with anger, like my pain was an inconvenience she'd paid for with her time. "What is wrong with you? The resort made us move. Grant's suitcase got moved by staff. Like, do you realize how humiliating that is?" I let her talk. I listened to her breathe. "Are you done?" I asked. "Are you serious?" she said. "You're punishing me because I invited someone you don't like. It was a pre-wedding thing. You're ruining it." "I checked out," I said. "I left the reservation." "You can't just—" She stopped. I heard her swallow. "Wait, did you check out, like, officially?" "Yes." "Why?" She forced a laugh, thin and sharp. "This is insane. You're being petty. It's not a big deal." There it was again. The phrase. The spell she thought could make consequences disappear. "You gave my suite key to your ex," I said. Calm. Flat. "So?" she snapped. "It's a room. A room. You act like I slept with him." Silence sat between us, heavy as a wet towel. Then, faint through her speaker, I heard a male voice in the background, a laugh, low, comfortable, like he belonged there. And then Lila, quieter now, speaking away from the phone. "Stop. Not right now." My hand tightened around the phone. "Where are you?" I asked. "In the lobby," she said too quickly. I pictured the lobby. Marble, fireplace, couples, the concierge desk. I pictured Grant's smirk in that master suite mirror. "Lila," I said, "tell me the truth." She inhaled hard. When she spoke, her voice softened into something almost sweet, almost victimized. "Evan, don't do this. Don't make it ugly." Ugly, like it hadn't already been. At 3:19, she hung up on me. At 3:22, Grant called. I let it ring until voicemail. Then I listened. His voice came in close, like a whisper through a crack in a door. "You can't do anything," he said. "You hear me? You're not married yet. You're just a guy who paid for a trip. Get over it." He was right about one thing. We weren't married yet, which meant I still had choices. I went into the closet and pulled out the envelope I'd hidden behind the winter coats. The venue contract with the cancellation section highlighted, a copy of the ring insurance policy, and the receipt for the engagement ring. Paid, insured, return window closed. I stared at the paper until the numbers blurred. Then I did the thing that frightened me most. I felt nothing. At 4:06 a.m., I went to bed alone. At 4:07, my phone buzzed with one last text from Lila. "I'm coming home tomorrow. We'll talk. Don't do anything stupid." I looked at it and whispered to the empty room, "Too late." Because the stupid part had been staying quiet. The smart part? The smart part was already moving. The next day, the sun came up like it didn't care. At 7:30 a.m., Diane called. Her voice was crisp, like paper cut into a weapon. "I read your text," she said. "You're not married. That helps you. But you have to stay clean. No threats, no property games, no 'I'll ruin you' speeches. Understood?" "Understood," I said. "Good," she said. Because the moment you get emotional, you get sloppy. And sloppy is where people like her win. Her. She didn't say Lila's name. She didn't have to. Diane walked me through the list like a surgeon pointing at organs. The vendors I could cancel today without losing full deposits. The ones with partial penalties. The ones that required written notice. She told me what to save. Texts, receipts, anything that showed the trip was in my name and that Lila and Grant weren't authorized after checkout. Also, she said, change your locks if her name isn't on the lease, but don't toss her stuff, box it, store it, document it. I'm not trying to be a monster, I said. There was a pause. Diane's voice softened, just a fraction. Evan, you're not turning into one. You're simply stopping the one in your house from eating you. At 10:08, I drove to her office and signed a stack of letters, formal notices, vendor cancellations, and a simple statement withdrawing my consent for Lila to use my accounts. No threats, just boundaries in ink. At 11:31, I left the law office and went to the airport long-term garage. Not to fly, to think. It sounds stupid, I know, like a guy in a movie returning to the scene for symbolism. But the airport garage is a place where everyone's coming back from somewhere, and it felt like a good place to watch who returned and what they brought with them. I parked on level 4 and sat with the engine off, listening to the concrete breathe. Cars echoed below, a distant beep, the smell of oil and old rain. At 12:07, I saw Grant. He came through the door from the elevator with a rolling suitcase, looking around like he expected applause. He wore the same smug energy as yesterday, just slightly cracked at the edges, like he'd slept badly and blamed someone else for the dreams. He didn't see me at first. He walked toward his car, phone to his ear, voice low and irritated. Yeah, he said. He checked out. I know, it's fine. We'll handle it. He paused, listening. Then he said, because he's weak. That's why. I stepped out of my car and let the door close with a soft click. Hey, Grant, I said. He turned. For a second, his face did this quick flicker, surprise, then calculation, then a forced grin like he could paste confidence back on. Evan, he said, look at you. Stalking now? I'm not stalking, I said. I'm standing in a public garage. He rolled his eyes and kept walking, like I was an annoying flyer someone handed him on the street. I followed, not fast, not slow, just close enough. I'm going to say this once, he said, still walking. Whatever drama you're trying to start, it's not going to work. Lila's just stressed. You're making it worse. I didn't answer. The concrete around us made everything sound louder, our footsteps, his suitcase wheels, his breath. He reached his car, popped the trunk, and shoved the suitcase in. Then he turned and leaned on the trunk lid like we were old friends about to joke around. You know what you did last night? He said. You made yourself look small. You think people see strong when a guy runs away? They see pathetic. Is that what you told yourself when you flew back early? I asked. His smile tightened. I had meetings. Sure, I said. He pushed off the trunk and got closer, lowering his voice. Let me give you advice. You're not married yet. You can walk away. But if you make this messy, she'll hate you. Everyone will. You'll be the guy who couldn't handle his fiancée having a friend. A friend, I said. He shrugged. An ex. Whatever. Grown-ups can handle that. I looked at him. Close now. Close enough to smell the mint on his breath. Close enough to see the faint red mark on his neck where a collar had rubbed. Something that looked a lot like lipstick on pale skin. My stomach turned, but my voice stayed steady. You're sleeping in my room, I said. That doesn't make it yours. His eyes narrowed. What are you even saying? I pulled my phone out. I didn't shove it in his face. I held it casually, like I was checking the weather. On the screen, the selfie Lila sent, her bare shoulder, his blurred shape behind her. His reflection caught just enough. His watch, the exact one he wore right now. Below it, another image, The resort invoice showing the master suite in my name and the standard room reassigned after checkout. And beneath that, an email confirmation from the front desk. Mr. Hart, per your request, access has been removed and charges adjusted effective 12 hours a.m. Grant's jaw flexed. You went crying to staff, he said, but his voice lost some of its swagger. That's weak. I went to the terms, I said. That's adult. He stepped closer, trying to loom. You think this scares me? You can't do anything. You can't. His phone buzzed. He glanced down, and the color drained from his face in a way no performance could hide. He read the screen and swallowed. What is it? I asked. Nothing, he snapped, shoving the phone into his pocket. But I already knew. Because my phone buzzed too, a text from the resort. Mr. Hart, your remaining guests have requested an extension in the master suite. Please confirm payment method. I stared at it, then looked up at Grant. His eyes darted, his confidence cracked. You told her you could handle it, I said quietly. Grant's nostrils flared. He turned like he was going to walk away. I didn't grab him. I didn't touch him. I just spoke, calm enough to be terrifying. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave. You're going to stop contacting me, and you're going to stop treating my life like it's a place you can crash when you're bored. He spun back, anger rising in his face. Or what? I smiled. Not happy, just sharp. Or you'll keep learning what boring paperwork feels like, I said. For a second we stood there in the thick garage air, the space between us filled with the echo of our choices. Then Grant did the thing cowards do when they realize they can't win. He tried to make noise. You're insane, he barked loud enough for other cars to hear. You're harassing me. Two people in a nearby sedan glanced over. A security camera above us blinked red. Grant saw it too. His eyes flicked up, and for the first time his body language changed. Not aggressive, but careful. Because cameras don't record feelings. They record facts. He backed toward the driver's door, still talking, still trying to control the story. This is why she... A security guard stepped out from behind a pillar, drawn by Grant's raised voice. Everything okay here? The guard asked. Grant forced a smile. Yeah, just a misunderstanding. The guard looked at me. I kept my hands visible, my posture relaxed. All good, I said. We're done. Grant slammed his door shut and peeled out of the spot too fast, tires squealing in the concrete box. The guard watched him go, then looked at me again. You want to file a report? He asked. No, I said. I don't need one. Because I wasn't trying to win in the moment. I was trying to win in the long run. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with a message from Lila. Where are you? Grant says you confronted him. What is wrong with you? I didn't answer. I stared at her words until they stopped looking like language and started looking like a pattern. Then I put the phone down, started my car, and drove away, steady, legal, and patient. Behind me, somewhere in the city, Grant was calling her, panicking, and in that panic, he would finally tell her the one thing that mattered. I wasn't bluffing. By the time I got home, my front door lock was already changed. I hadn't planned it that fast. Diane had told me to do it, yes, but something about hearing Grant's tires squeal in that garage had flipped a switch in me. Not fear, clarity. I set my phone on the counter and opened a new notebook page. Date. Time. Action. It's the kind of thing a sane man does when he knows someone is going to call him crazy. At 1:28 p.m., I called the locksmith. At 2:15 p.m., I took photos of every room. Furniture, electronics, the ring box in the safe, the wedding binder, all of it. Documentation, not paranoia. At 2:49 p.m., I boxed Lila's personal items I could find without digging. Makeup bag on the bathroom counter, her laptop on the dining table, her favorite coffee mug with the chipped rim. I didn't throw anything away. I didn't damage anything. I treated her stuff like it belonged to a stranger I wanted no future trouble with. At 3:03 p.m., my phone buzzed with a resort number. I answered. Mr. Hart? It was the front desk manager now, older voice, tired. Yes. Your guest, Ms. Lila. She's asking to reinstate the original suite. She says there was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, I said. I checked out. He sighed like he'd been waiting for that. She's upset. That's understandable, I said, and meant it. But I'm not authorizing any further charges. Understood, he said. There's also the matter of incidentals from last night, the minibar, and I'm responsible only through the checkout time, I said. Please email me itemized charges with timestamps. A pause. Then, quieter. Mr. Hart, between you and me, your party is causing a scene. Grant isn't my party, I said. Right, he said quickly. Of course, I apologize. When I hung up, I felt a dark little satisfaction, not joy. Satisfaction like watching a storm cloud finally break after days of humid air. At 3:21 p.m., Lila called. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. Hello? Her voice came through hot, shaky. Did you change the locks? I'm not home right now, I said, so I wouldn't know. You're lying, she snapped. Evan, stop. This is too far. What's too far? I asked. Giving a room away? Bringing an ex on a trip I paid for? Or me removing myself from it? She made a sound, half laugh, half sob. You're being dramatic. You always do this. You act like you're calm, but you're punishing me. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm separating. Her breathing hitched. Separating? We're getting married in 3 weeks. Were, I corrected. Silence. Then her voice dropped into that tone she used in public when she wanted people to think she was the reasonable one. Okay, you're upset. We can talk when I get back. But you need to stop messing with my money. My card declined at the resort, Evan. Do you know how embarrassing that is? I know exactly how embarrassing it is, I said. Then fix it, she demanded, like I owed her repairs. No, I said. She went quiet, then exploded. You're ruining my life. I almost laughed. Almost. Because her life had been a game of pushing boundaries and calling the push confidence. And now she'd finally found the edge. I'm coming home tonight, she said, voice trembling with rage. Grant's driving me, and you better be there. Don't bring him to my house, I said. It's our house, she snapped. It's my lease, I said. Your name isn't on it. Yours never went on it because you said paperwork was a vibe brutaler. The line landed like a slap. For a second, she didn't speak. Then she said very softly, You're disgusting. I hung up. At 4:08 p.m., Diane called. She's coming back, I said before she could speak. I assumed, Diane said. Did you do anything reckless? No, I said. Good. Listen carefully. Tonight is the last clean exit. If she shows up with him, don't engage in a screaming match. Keep it in writing. Keep it in the light. If you feel unsafe, call the police. But you don't want this to turn into a he said, she said circus. I don't feel unsafe, I said. Diane paused. Evan, it's not always about physical safety. Sometimes it's about the story they'll tell later. At 5:30, I went through the wedding binder with a marker. I highlighted cancellation clauses. I circled dates. I wrote notice sent beside each vendor email. At 6:44, I opened the group email list we'd built. Family, friends, co-workers, wedding party. One click could send a message that would change every conversation in our lives. I didn't send it yet. I waited. Because timing is the difference between revenge and a tantrum. At 8:12 p.m., my doorbell camera pinged. Motion detected. I opened the live feed. Lila stood at my front door in her lake resort clothes, hair wind-tangled, eyes sharp with fury. Grant was behind her on the porch, hands in his pockets, jaw set, like a guy ready to handle things. Lila leaned close to the camera and said, loud enough for the mic, "Open the door, Evan, right now." I watched them on the screen for a long moment. Then I went to the office, sat at my desk, and opened a new email draft. Subject: wedding update. My finger hovered over the keyboard. Outside, Lila knocked again, harder. Grant said something I couldn't hear. Lila turned and snapped at him, and in that small exchange, I saw it. The crack in their alliance, the stress, the blame, the way a secret relationship starts to rot when the world notices. My phone buzzed. A text from the resort manager. "Mr. Hart, your guests have checked out early. Thank you for your cooperation." I stared at it, then at the camera feed of my front porch. I wasn't going to open the door. I was going to open the truth, and that was going to hurt a lot more. I didn't open the door, not because I was afraid of them on my porch, but because once you open that door, you're in their energy, their volume, their version. Instead, I messaged Lila through text so it stayed clean. "I'm not doing this at the house. Meet me at Diane Mercer's office tomorrow at 9 hot a.m. She replied in all caps within seconds. "Are you kidding me?" Then, "Open the door." Then, "Grant is here. He can talk sense into you." I stared at that last one and felt something cold slide behind my eyes. I typed back, "Do not bring him." She wrote, "You don't get to tell me what to do." I set the phone down and let the porch camera record their anger for as long as they stayed. At 8:34 p.m., they left. Not gracefully. Lila stormed down the steps first. Grant followed, looking back at the camera once like he wanted me to know he wasn't scared. But the way he walked, too fast, shoulders tight, said otherwise. At 9:02, I sent the wedding update email to the planner, the venue, and every vendor. No drama, just facts. Due to a personal matter, the wedding scheduled for March 18th is canceled. Please confirm in writing the refund status per contract. At 9:10, I sent a separate email to our wedding party. A short message asking them to pause travel bookings and wait for details. I didn't tell them why yet. Not because I was protecting Lila, because I was building a record. The night passed with little sleep. I kept thinking about the master suite, the way Lila's smile had been almost playful when she humiliated me, like she believed she could rearrange my dignity the way she rearranged throw pillows. At 8:45 a.m., I walked into Diane's building. Her office was on the third floor above a coffee shop. Neutral, professional, a place designed to drain drama out of people. In the lobby, a receptionist sat behind glass, clicking calmly through a spreadsheet like human pain was background noise. Diane met me at the door to her suite. She wore a gray blazer and a look that said, "Stay steady." "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. At 8:58, Lila arrived. She burst into the lobby like she was storming a stage. Grant was with her, of course, because they were still clinging to the idea that a man's presence could intimidate me into obedience. Lila's eyes locked on mine. They were red-rimmed, either from crying or from rage, maybe both. "You're really doing this?" she said. Her voice bounced off the lobby walls, too loud. Diane stepped forward, blocking her path with the quiet authority of someone who gets paid to survive people like Lila. "Ms. Collins?" Diane asked. Lila glanced at her like she was an insect. "Who are you?" "I'm Evan's counsel," Diane said. "You can call me Diane." Lila laughed, sharp. "Counsel? For what? We're engaged." Diane held out a folder. "Not anymore." Lila snatched it and flipped it open like she expected to find a prank. Inside, a notice of wedding cancellation sent to vendors, copies of refund requests, a written withdrawal of authorization for Lila to use Evan Hart accounts, and a formal letter stating that as of today, the relationship is terminated and cohabitation permission is revoked. Not eviction, just a clear boundary, with a list of options. Retrieve belongings by appointment, movers arranged, storage unit already secured for 30 days at my expense. Lila's face shifted through emotions like a broken traffic light. "This is insane," she said. Then quieter. "This is insane." Grant stepped closer, trying to peek over her shoulder. Diane raised a hand, stopping him. "This meeting is between Evan and Lila," she said. "Grant is not a party." Grant scoffed. "I'm here to support her. I'm here to prevent escalation," Diane said, eyes steady. Lila's hands shook as she held the folder. "You can't kick me out," Diane pointed to the lease copy clipped inside. "Your name is not on the lease. Evan has offered a structured way for you to retrieve your property. No one is kicking anyone. This is simply a termination of permission." Lila looked at me then, finally really looking. Her voice dropped into a lower register, the one she used when she wanted to pierce. "You're doing this because of a room," she said. "A stupid room." I met her eyes. "I'm doing this because you brought your ex on a pre-wedding trip I paid for, gave him my suite, and then lied to my face while he laughed behind you." "It wasn't like that," she snapped, too quickly. Diane spoke, calm. "Lila, you are free to disagree, but Evan is free to withdraw from marriage plans and financial commitments. That's all that's happening here." Grant let out a humorless chuckle. "Man, you're really letting a lawyer write your feelings for you." Diane turned to him. "Sir, if you continue to disrupt, I'll ask building security to remove you." Grant's smile faded. Lila slammed the folder against her thigh. "Okay, fine. You want to be cold? We can be cold. I'll get my things and I'll leave. But you're not going to smear me. You're not going to tell people lies." "I'm not going to lie," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to tell the truth," I said. "And the truth doesn't need embellishment." For the first time, something like fear flashed through her face. Because she knew what the truth looked like. Bare shoulder, champagne flute, Grant's blurred figure in the mirror. She knew how many people in our lives would read that photo like a headline. "I didn't cheat," she said, almost pleading now. The anger slipped. The mask cracked. "Evan, I swear. He slept in the suite because you left. That's it." Diane glanced at me, subtle. A reminder, don't argue, don't debate. Just present. I pulled out my phone and opened the selfie. I didn't shove it forward. I slid it across the glass table in the lobby seating area like it was a document. Lila stared at it. Her throat bobbed. Grant's face went stiff. He looked away first. "I don't care what you call it," I said. "I care that you chose him over me, publicly, before we even said vows." Lila's voice rose again, desperation turning to rage. "You're overreacting. You're throwing away everything because you're insecure." "Insecure men beg," I said. "I booked a flight home." The receptionist behind the glass looked up then, eyes wide. The lobby had gone quiet. Other tenants pretended not to listen, but they were listening. People always do. Lila's voice dropped to a whisper, venomous. "You think you're hurting me? You're hurting yourself. You'll be alone. You'll be the pathetic guy who couldn't keep his woman." I leaned closer. Just enough. I'd rather be alone than be laughed at in my own bed. Grant shifted, jaw clenching. He looked like he wanted to say something, like he wanted to swing and be the hero in his own mind. But Diane's calm presence made violence impossible without consequences. Grant cleared his throat. "Let's go," he muttered to Lila. "This is pointless." Lila didn't move. She stared at me like she was trying to find the man she could manipulate. And then, almost like a child, realizing the rules had changed, she asked, "What do you want?" I answered honestly. "I want my life back." Diane slid one more document across the table. "This is the appointment schedule for property retrieval," she said. "You can pick a time. You can have a witness. Evan will not be present if you prefer." Lila's eyes flicked over it. Her hands were still shaking. Then she looked at Grant. He didn't meet her gaze. Something in her face collapsed. That was the real procedural collapse. Not the papers, not the contracts. The moment she realized the man she'd brought to my suite wasn't going to save her now. As Lila turned to leave, Diane leaned toward me and whispered, barely moving her lips. "Stay steady," she said. "The fallout will try to make you flinch." Lila reached the door, paused, and looked back one last time. "You'll regret this," she said. I didn't answer, because regret is for people who act without a plan. And I had a plan. The next piece of it was already waiting in my draft folder. All I needed to do was hit send. Grant's power wasn't money. It wasn't muscles either. Guys like him don't win with fists. They win with rooms, with access, with being the person who knows someone. He worked at a private club downtown, the kind with frosted windows and a doorman who looks through you unless you belong. He'd told Lila it was networking. She'd repeated that word like it was perfume. I'd been there once, months ago, when Lila insisted we go because she wanted to meet his circle. Grant had introduced me with a hand on my shoulder like he was doing charity. "This is Evan," he'd said. "He's solid. Solid. Like a piece of furniture." Now, 2 days after the resort, I walked back into that building with a slim folder in my hand. Not to pick a fight, to close a door. The lobby smelled like cedar and expensive coffee. Soft jazz played like a warning not to raise your voice. A woman behind a small desk looked up and smiled professionally. "Good afternoon," she said. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Grant," I said. "It's personal, but it involves club conduct. Who handles member complaints?" Her smile tightened. "That would be Mr. Harlan, membership director." "Is he available?" I asked. She hesitated, studying my face for drama. I gave her none. Finally, she made a call and gestured for me to wait. 2 minutes later, a man in a navy suit came out, mid-50s, calm eyes, no nonsense, Mr. Harlan. "I'm Harlan," he said. "You wanted to speak about Grant?" "Yes," I said, privately. He led me into a small office with a glass wall that looked out on the lounge. Inside, the city was soft focus. People laughed quietly over drinks like they had never made a mistake in their lives. Harlan sat. I stayed standing. "Grant is an employee," he said. "If this is about your personal relationship—" "It's about his conduct using club access," I said, and handed him the folder. Inside were 3 things: the selfie Lila sent, the resort invoice showing the suite and the changes, and a printed email chain with the resort manager confirming Grant was denied authorized guest status. No explicit photos, no nudity, just context. Enough to show he'd used his position and charm to insert himself into my paid trip and then tried to intimidate me when I enforced boundaries. Harlan's expression didn't change much, but the air in the room did, like someone had turned the temperature down. "You're saying he—" Harlan began. "I'm saying he's reckless," I said. "And he's the kind of reckless that becomes a liability in a place like this." Harlan looked through the papers again, then nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "We'll address it internally." "I don't need a speech," I said. "I need confirmation you received it." He slid a small form across the desk. "Fill this out," he said, "and I'll stamp it received." I did. Name, date, brief statement. My handwriting was steady. Harlan stamped it and handed me the copy. "You understand," he said, voice low. "We don't discuss internal discipline with outside parties." "I understand," I said. "I'm not here for gossip." That wasn't entirely true. I was here for impact. As I stood to leave, the lounge glass wall caught a movement. Grant. He was out there laughing with 2 men in suits. His body language was relaxed, like the world had forgiven him already. When he turned and saw me through the glass, his laugh gone in his throat. He excused himself and walked fast toward the hallway. I left Harlan's office and followed, not chasing, not running, just walking with purpose. Grant pushed through a door marked "Employees Only." I followed before it shut. We ended up in a narrow service corridor that smelled like cleaning solution and old carpet. No cameras I could see. No jazz. Just fluorescent lights and the hum of a building that didn't care about romance. Grant spun on me. His face was pale now, the smugness replaced by a tight, frantic anger. "What the hell did you do?" he hissed. "I told the truth," I said. "You can't come in here and—" He stepped closer, trying to crowd me. "You're trying to ruin my job." "You ruined your job," I said. "I'm just holding up a mirror." His hands clenched. His eyes were wild. "You're a freak," he spat. "You're obsessed. She chose me because you're—" "Because I'm solid?" I asked. That stopped him. The insult hung in the air, ridiculous and sad. Grant swallowed. His voice dropped, sharper. "If you keep pushing, I'll make sure everyone knows you're the one who freaked out. I'll tell them you stalked me. I stepped to the side, blocking the corridor toward the employee exit, not touching him, just standing where he couldn't pass without a decision. Grant froze. He wasn't used to men who didn't bark back. He was used to men who reacted, men who gave him something to use. I gave him nothing but presence. "You want to understand what you walked into?" I said softly. "You thought disrespect was free. You thought because there wasn't a ring on her finger yet, there weren't consequences." Grant's throat worked. His confidence was gone now. All that was left was a man realizing the floor had been pulled out from under him. "What do you want?" he asked, almost the same words Lila had used. I leaned in just enough for him to hear me over the hum of the lights. "I want you to remember my name every time a door doesn't open for you," I whispered. Grant's eyes flicked toward the lounge door behind him, like he could already feel people watching. He took a step back, then another. He pushed past me with a stiff shoulder, not touching me, not daring to. He walked away fast, head down, like a man leaving a crime scene. I watched him go and felt something settle inside me. Quiet, heavy, not triumph, closure. Because the thing about men like Grant is that they can survive a punch, but they can't survive losing access. As I walked out of the club into the cold afternoon air, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. From the venue. Subject, confirmation, cancellation accepted. I opened it and read the first line. "Mr. Hart, we confirm the event has been canceled and the date released." Released. Like a bird set free. Or like a weapon taken off safety. I pocketed my phone and headed for the place the story would end. Because the last door left to close was the one at my own house. And Lila was about to knock again. Lila didn't knock the second time. She pounded, hard enough that the porch light shook in its socket. It was 6:17 p.m. when my doorbell camera pinged. I watched the feed from the dining table, laptop open, cursor hovering over an email draft I'd been building for 2 days. "Remember," Diane said quietly, "no yelling. Keep it clean." Lila leaned into the camera, eyes swollen. Grant hovered behind her. I walked to the door and opened it just far enough that the chain held. "You're seriously doing the chain thing?" she snapped. "Yes," I said. "Open the door," she demanded. "We need to talk." "We can talk right here," I said. Grant stepped forward. "This is childish." "Let her in," he said. Diane moved into view behind me, calm as a judge. "Grant, you're not welcome here," she said. Lila's gaze flicked to Diane and back to me. "You brought a lawyer to our home? You're sick." "I brought structure," I said. Lila laughed and it broke halfway. "Okay, fine. You want structure? Here's structure. You apologize, and we go back to planning our wedding." "There is no wedding," I said. Her face twitched. "You can't just cancel. People have flights. My mother." "I just notified vendors," I said. "The date is released." Diane lifted the folder in her hand. "Your retrieval appointment is tomorrow at 2 hours. Movers will be present. Evan will not. Your property is boxed and stored for 30 days at his expense. Lila went still. Stored? I unlatched the chain and opened the door wider, not to invite her in, but to let her see. Boxes stacked neatly in the entryway, labeled in black marker, Lila, clothes, Lila, shoes, Lila, personal. On the wall beside them, the welcome sign leaned where it always had. Forever starts here. Now it looked like a joke told by a stranger. Lila stepped inside fast, eyes scanning the boxes, the emptier house, the way the air just felt different. Grant tried to follow. Diane blocked him without touching him. "Stop," she said. Lila turned on me, voice tight. "You packed my stuff." "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I didn't hide anything. I ended the arrangement." She swallowed, then snapped back into anger like it was armor. "You're doing this because you're jealous, because you can't handle me having a past." "I can handle your past," I said. "I can't handle your present." She flinched. "Say it," she demanded. "Say I cheated. You don't have proof." I picked up the laptop and turned the screen toward her. Subject, wedding canceled. Body, short, clean, no poetry. "To our family and friends, the wedding planned for March 18th has been canceled. I can't move forward after discovering Lila invited her ex on our pre-wedding trip, gave him the master suite I paid for, and then lied about it. Attached are the resort invoice and a photo that explains more than words can. I won't discuss it further. Attachments, the invoice. The selfie, cropped, nothing explicit, just unmistakable. Lila stared at the screen, her lips parted. No sound came out. "Don't you dare," she whispered. "It's not a big deal," I said, using her phrase like a blade. "Right?" Her eyes filled, rage and panic fighting for the same space. She reached for the laptop. Diane's voice snapped, "Lila, do not touch him or his property." From the porch, Grant said, "Lila, stop. Come on." Lila turned toward him, and in that turn, I saw it. The truth she'd been refusing. Grant wasn't here to save her. He was here to manage damage. My cursor hovered over send. I clicked. The progress bar filled, smooth and irreversible. Sent. Lila's phone buzzed immediately, violent in her pocket. Then again, and again. She pulled it out, went pale, and stared at the screen as messages stacked faster than she could read. Her mother, her bridesmaids, her boss, people who'd believed her smile. Outside, Grant's phone started buzzing too. His eyes widened. He took a step back from my doorway like the house itself had become dangerous. Lila looked up at me, and for the first time, there was no performance left, just naked shock. You did it," she breathed. I nodded once. "I did." She shook her head slowly, like she wanted gravity to change its mind. "You're going to regret this," she whispered, but the words were weightless now. I held the door open, not for her comfort, but for the ending. "Take tomorrow's appointment," I said. "Get your things. Go wherever you were going to go after you gave my bed away." Lila stepped backward like she was leaving a cliff edge. Grant didn't look at her. He was already calculating how to get out of the story without being blamed. They went down the steps together, phones buzzing like alarms they couldn't shut off. I closed the door. The lock clicked. In the quiet that followed, I looked at the welcome sign leaning against the wall. "Forever starts here." I took a marker, crossed out the last word, and wrote one of my own. Ends. Then I set the marker down, turned off the lights, and let the truth do what it always does when you finally let it in. It finished the job.